So as a way of giving you a little background for what this is about, I have for a long time been interested in the idea of social construction and the idea that organizations are socially constructed. And my interest takes me to a place of what does it mean to lead, and what does it mean to act in an organization if it is indeed socially constructed? And I thought about this for a while, and I even went so far as to write an article about it. It was an article called Dissolving Anchors, Acid Management on Mars. It appeared in 2003, and it was kind of a classic academic approach to understanding it. And as far as I can tell, it's had pretty much no impact on the world, which may say something about the journal it's in or about the article. But I thought about it as I think about artistic forms. One of my other interests is artistic forms in organizations and the use of artistic forms in interventions and change efforts. As I think about that, I think about how artistic forms work and what processes we use. I also then tend to say, how can I use artistic forms in my research to represent these issues? And so this play is part of one of my efforts to use a play to explore that same issue of how do we lead and how do we act in a socially constructed organization? What are the implications of that? What are the issues that evolve around that? Of course, being a play, it's not a straightforward statement of theory. I play a bit, and I think you'll see what I mean by that. So the form of that we're going to use is a staged reading, and what that means is we all are carrying scripts, so we haven't memorized the work. We've had maybe 2 hours of rehearsal rather than 2 months of rehearsal, like you might expect with a full performance. Instead of having a beautiful set that's built and painted, we have a curtain. And what it also means is that typically in a play you talk about the willing suspension of disbelief, where you're willing to kind of say, okay, I won't disbelieve that I won't recognize that this is just a play. I'll kind of jump into that world. For a staged reading, I think it takes a little bit more than that. It takes sort of an active belief in the imagined world. Because we only have a curtain, it's up to you to provide the set. You have to imagine the set in your mind. It's up to you to recognize that we have scripts in our hands and pretend we don't have scripts. And they go with it. So you have to make that active leap into the world. So I give you Blasphemy and Doubt.
Hello.
I don't mean to be rude, but do I know you?
No, not at all. Thought is ridiculous. Know me? I laugh.
I'm Robin.
I know.
And you are?
Larson.
Well, it's nice to meet you, Larson.
Oh, I doubt that. I very much doubt that there's anything nice about meeting me at all.
And why would that be?
Oh, you don't know? You haven't figured it out yet? Of course not. Just got here, hasn't sunk in yet. But give it time. In time, you'll be very unhappy to be here. Everyone is.
And where is here?
This is hell.
And it's not very nice, and I've never seen any place quite like this, but hell seems a bit harsh.
It is harsh. It's hell.
So where are we?
Hell. You die, you don't get into heaven, so instead you end up here, in hell.
So you're saying seriously that I have died and gone to hell?
You expected to go to heaven?
No.
So this should come as no surprise.
You're saying that I'm dead.
You catch on quick?
I was driving back to the office. There was a car that was coming into my lane, and that's the last thing I remember.
And you had a head-on collision, and now you're dead.
I don't feel dead.
How would you know what it feels like to be dead? Have you been dead before? That's a serious question, Do you believe in reincarnation?
No.
Don't believe in much, do you? That's okay. That's why you're here.
I'm not following you.
Look, heaven is for true believers. If you're not a true believer, then you go to hell. Hell is for those of us with doubts.
Look, I don't know who you are or where I am or even how I got here, but I do know you are a crazy person.
You doubt me? Good. That means you're a doubter, and you're in the right place.
Could you tell me where the nearest phone is?
Look, you're dead. I know it takes a while to get used to the idea, and I know, as your official greeter, I should have some patience with the whole getting used to it process. But the simple fact is, I don't. Maybe I've been doing this too long, but I just can't be bothered to go through the whole realization and acceptance routine with you.
You really think I'm dead?
I'll just be over there. You take your time, and if you need me, give me a yell.
Okay, so I'm driving, and the next thing I know, I end up here. Doesn't look like a hospital. Maybe it's a dream. How would I know? Pinch yourself. Ouch! If I really were dead, how would I know? I have to admit that I don't know much about being dead. I've been thinking that it's just over, and there isn't anything to being dead. The whole afterlife thing, the heaven and hell stuff, just never made any sense to me. So let's say, just for the sake of argument, that I'm dead. It would seem to me that it would have to be somehow significantly different from being alive. And yet, it doesn't feel very different. It hurts when I pinch myself. I seem to be breathing. I would never go to a place that looked like this if I was alive. All of which doesn't help me at all. You know, I don't have to pee. I almost always have to pee at least a little bit. Hey Larson, can I pee?
What?
Can I pee in hell? Is that some sort of proof that I'm in hell, that I can't pee? I mean, I kind of like peeing. I would miss it if I could never pee again.
You could pee if you really wanted to, but you don't have to. You don't have to eat and drink. You can't starve to death, but most of us do eat and drink, so we tend to eliminate. It works better that way.
Well, that's a relief. No pun intended.
None taken. So have you accepted that you're dead?
Well, let's just say that I'm willing to go with it for the time being.
As your official greeter, it's my job just to say hi. Let you know that you're in hell, answer whatever questions you have, if I can, and then get back to my real job. It's sort of a welcome wagon type thing we all have to do from time to time.
Well, what's your real job?
I'm a goat trader.
Really? Who do you trade goats with?
Other residents of hell, sometimes even the folks in heaven.
So there's commerce between heaven and hell.
Some. So look me up if you're in the market for some goats, and I'll be on my way.
Well, hold on. I have a few questions.
Damn, there's always a few questions.
You said I'm here because I'm not a true believer. What did you mean by that?
Heaven is for those who believe. Hell is for those who don't.
Believe in what? I mean, there's countless religions on earth that all claim to have the truth about God and what God says, and they all say that everyone who doesn't believe in their version is wrong and going to hell. I always figured that if you had to pick the right one to get into heaven, then God was a real asshole, because you had to either be born lucky or make an incredibly lucky pick, because there just wasn't any reasonable way to decide which one to believe in.
I don't think God would appreciate that asshole remark.
So who's right? Which true believers are in heaven?
All of them. Anyone who was a true believer in any version, if they really believed that they would go to heaven when they died, then they did.
So you're saying that I really believed I would go to hell when I died?
Could be, or it could be you didn't believe in anything. Hell is the default case.
If I had believed in some version of paradise where I was surrounded by nubile virgins and drank nectar all day, that's where I would be right now?
Yeah. Whatever you believed in your heart.
Damn, that really sucks. Maybe I can start believing in my own version of paradise, with peeing.
Too late. You're here.
Well, that doesn't seem very fair.
Funny, I don't recall any of those belief systems being based in fairness. Justice, an eye for an eye, the golden rule, divine right, sure. But fairness? In God's defense, I don't think that was ever on the table.
There are thousands of religions, all of which claim to have the truth, and all the others are wrong, and God doesn't care which one we believe in as long as we believe in one.
Yeah.
And somehow I was supposed to figure that out while I was alive? There was some clue out there that I missed that would have helped me to figure that out? I mean, how was I supposed to know? Perhaps asshole is too nice a term for a God that would create that set of rules.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go around saying that too loudly.
Why? I'm in hell. What's it going to do to me? God is a he, right?
If that's what you believe.
So let me shout it to the rooftops. God is an asshole.
Don't!
Why?
Someone will hear you.
Larson, you seem awfully afraid when I call God an asshole.
Don't say that! I'm not afraid. But maybe you shouldn't be so loose with the lips. People hear things. People overhear things. And maybe they're not so open-minded as me. You never know where that will go.
I would think that people in hell would not be big fans of God.
I think that's a fair statement. We don't have opinion polls here, but That would be my guess.
So why would people care if you badmouth them?
Look, I do business with these people. Not a lot of business, but a few goats for Christmas dinner. Maybe some for Goat Day.
Goat Day?
Who am I to criticize what holidays people want to celebrate? And if it means they want to buy some goats.
So somebody might say something bad about you and how you feel about God, and you think that might affect your business. They might buy from some goat trader in heaven?
In heaven? Ha! Everybody knows the best goats come from hell. Cute little bunnies, sure. Heaven's got those coming out the wazoo. But goats? Goats are one of hell's creatures.
Oh, this is really starting to piss me off. I am a rational thinking person, and as a result didn't accept things on faith. I needed evidence, believed in reason and a variety of other principles that all seemed pretty good and useful. And now I have to spend an eternity in hell while the unthinking idiots who blindly accepted what some old guy in a dress told them get to spend an eternity in heaven. That is really just not okay with me. Who can I talk to about this?
You're talking to me about this.
Well, that doesn't seem to be doing me much good. Can you do anything about this?
You mean you being dead?
I was thinking about the being in hell part of it, but not being dead would be good.
Can't do anything about that.
The being in dead or being in hell?
Either. But if you're looking for a good deal on some goats.
So who can I talk to? Who do you work for?
I'm pretty much an entrepreneur. I work for myself.
Well, let me put it another way. Who can do something about our situation?
God helps those who help themselves. You know, praise the Lord and pass the ammunition.
I'll talk to God.
That's a good one. Talk to God. That's funny.
I was serious.
Really? Oh, of course. You just got here. You don't know any better. You can't talk to God.
Why not?
It's just not done.
Well, I'm going to do it.
Oh, no. You can't just go talk to God. They'll think I didn't do my job as a greeter.
You've done just fine. So where would I find
No,
God?
no. Trust me on this. You're new here. You don't know how things work around here.
So who should I go talk to? Who can do something about this?
Nobody can. It's the way the whole thing works. You can't change how the whole system works. It's too big. It just is. And you can't mess with that.
Where is God?
God is everywhere.
Everywhere? Even here in hell?
Well, no, not here. More up in heaven, I suppose, than here in hell.
Well, which way is heaven?
That way.
Thank you.
Please, I beg you, don't make waves. You don't know what'll happen.
Do you know what will happen?
Terrible things. Plagues, fire and brimstone, freezing cold, senseless torture, torture with symbolic meaning.
You've seen this.
People talk, you hear things, read things in books.
I'm going.
You'll regret this.
Thanks for all your help. I'll be in touch when I need some goats for my Goat Day celebration in heaven. Excuse me.
Oh, I didn't see you there.
Could you tell me where heaven is?
It's just there.
Thanks.
But you can't go in. That is, until I've seen your papers.
My papers?
Yes, you do have papers, don't you?
You'll have to excuse me. I'm sort of new around here.
Just freshly dead, are you?
Yes.
And you found yourself in hell.
Yes, that's it.
And you would rather be in heaven?
And you can help me out.
No.
No,
Not without papers.
which I don't think I have.
You would know if you had any papers. And being just dead and being from hell, you wouldn't have any papers. You wouldn't be entitled to any papers.
I see.
So, no heaven for you. Sorry, that's how it is. Those are the rules. I don't make them, I just follow them. If it were up to me, then everyone could go to heaven. But it's not up to me, is it?
What is your job?
Gatekeeper, second class.
So then it is up to you.
Oh, no. Oh, I don't make the rules. I just...
Follow them.
Exactly. So you can see no papers, no entry into heaven.
How would I go about getting papers?
Oh, you would need to fill out the proper forms. I think that would be an HA 698. But I'm no expert, so don't take my word on it. In fact, I think we would all be a lot better off if we both just forgot that I said anything at all about the subject.
Well, where would I do that?
Any post office in heaven would have all the forms.
But you won't let me into heaven without papers.
True.
So how can I get the proper forms at a post office in heaven if I can't get into heaven?
I see your point. I don't think you can. That's a bit of tough luck for you.
Well, maybe you could just let me in just to get the forms. I promise to come right back after I've been to the post office.
Oh, no, I couldn't do that. They would have my job for that. That's the oldest one in the books. They tell you about that one on the first day for training. You folks from hell, always trying to be clever and get into heaven just for one little thing, and then you'll be right back. I just have to use the bathroom, then I'll come right back. I don't think so. Nobody has to pee in the afterlife. Oh, no, no clever tricks will get you past me.
Oh, of course not. You're much too clever for that.
Hi there, Larson. Making another trip to heaven?
Business never stops. You folks in heaven just can't get enough of our goats.
They're the best.
Excuse me, Larson?
Yes.
Remember me? You greeted me not so long ago?
Oh, of course.
And since it looks like you're going to heaven, I was wondering if you might do me a favor. I was wondering if you might be able to get an HA 698 form for me from a post office in heaven.
You know this one?
Just as a greeter, nothing more.
Well, you could vouch.
Vouch?
Vouch for you. That way you go into heaven with Larson and get the form yourself.
Oh, that would be great. Would you vouch for me?
Why do you want to go into heaven?
I want to talk to someone about fixing my problem.
And what problem is that?
I'm in hell.
And how is that a problem?
I don't want to be in hell.
You don't belong in hell?
Not a true believer.
Oh, so you do belong in hell.
I don't want to be in hell.
But that's where you belong. You're not a true believer. You don't belong in heaven.
The whole thing seems very unfair to me. How can God expect us to figure all this out while we're still alive?
The sunset over the ocean, the majesty of the mountains, cute little fuzzy bunnies, puns. Did none of this give you even a hint?
I'm in a bit of a hurry, so I'll just leave this to you.
What about vouching for me?
I don't think that will be happening. You can't really expect your greeter to vouch for you.
I don't know anyone else.
Fair enough, but you will. Spend some time in hell. You'll get to know some folks. You'll even get to like it, I bet. After all, it is where you belong.
I don't think so. I don't believe I belong in hell.
You don't believe you do belong in hell. That's a good one.
I need to talk to someone in charge. Can I talk to your boss?
You want to talk to God?
Yes, I do.
Now that's funny. At least if it weren't so sick, it would be funny. You can't talk directly to God. Did you talk directly to God when you were alive?
No, I didn't believe in God when I was alive.
Well, God doesn't have time to talk to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that wants to talk to God. God is busy.
Doing what?
How dare you question God? God is God, and if God says God is busy, then God is busy.
Guess it takes a lot of effort to make hurricanes, floods, and earthquakes and kill all those innocent people.
Did it ever occur to you that God stops most of the hurricanes, floods, and earthquakes, and it's just a few that gets through the defenses?
So God's not perfect.
Of course God is perfect. Those people deserve to die.
So God means to let the hurricanes, floods, and earthquakes through and kill innocent babies.
You're trying to trick me. That's how you non-believers work. You try to trick us with your words and logic, but I know the real answers. Look at the sunset. Can you do that? Can you make a sunset? When you can make a sunset, then maybe you can talk with God.
Then I would be God.
And we both know that's not the case. Unless you aren't God taking the form of a non-believer to test me, are you?
Yes, you have figured it out, and you have passed the test. Congratulations. Now I'll just be heading back into heaven.
Not so fast. That's part of the test. You shall not pass.
Okay, so I'm not God.
Oh,
But I'm working for God. God wanted me to test you and then report back.
how did I do?
Oh, you did very well. God will be pleased. The part about the sunsets and fuzzy bunnies was very good.
It's right out of the manual.
That's exactly what I mean. You delivered it perfectly.
Oh, anyone could have done that. I really was just following standard procedures.
Oh, don't put yourself down. You knew when and how to follow the procedures, and you did it with conviction.
I guess I did.
Oh, it was wonderful. Could I hear it again?
The sunsets over the ocean, the majesty of the mountains, cute little fuzzy bunnies. Puns? Did none of this give you even a hint?
Wonderful, just wonderful. God will be hearing about this.
Thank you. Do you think I might get promoted?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised.
Gatekeeper, first class. I like the ring of that.
Does sound good. I'll even suggest it in my report.
Your papers? I still have to see your papers. Can you imagine me not asking at this point? Having passed all the hard parts and then messing up now?
No, not you. You wouldn't miss that.
No, I wouldn't.
You see, the thing is, and this is pretty embarrassing, especially for someone in my position, I don't have my papers with me. I forgot them, left them back in heaven. So I was wondering, one working stiff to another, if you could let me in, then I could file my report, and you would look very good, if you know what I mean. Sort of a I wash your back, you wash mine sort of thing.
My back's not dirty.
I didn't mean literally.
Neither did I.
I see. Maybe your back is a little dirtier than you know.
What do you mean?
It's my report to file. It's all in how I see things.
How do I know this isn't just another test? They are very tricky in hell, so we have to be even trickier.
Oh, just let me in.
No papers, no entry.
This is just not fair. I can't get in because I don't have papers, and I can't get papers unless I get in. What kind of system is that? What kind of God is that?
I don't think you are a tester.
I'm not. I just want to talk to somebody in charge. Have a reasonable discussion about how things work around here. I'm getting screwed and I don't like it. It's discrimination. Discrimination against people who think. Discrimination against people who didn't believe in God. And it's not my fault I didn't believe.
Whose fault is it?
I blame God. Yeah, that's right. I blame God. God did a lousy job of making it clear that you had to believe to get into heaven.
Doesn't pretty much every religion in every culture in every time say that?
Well, sure, but that's not my point.
What is your point?
God's unfair to non-believers. That's my point. God's unfair to non-believers. God's unfair to non-believers. God's
Is this
unfair.
some sort of a protest?
That's exactly what it is. I'm protesting the system.
This is so exciting. I've never had a protest.
It's my right as a member of an abused and repressed minority to express myself in protest against the system and the powers that are abusing and repressing me.
I think you might do better if you had a better slogan.
What's wrong with God's unfair to non-believers?
It doesn't rhyme. All the great slogans rhyme, or at least be part of the catchy song, or maybe even both. But God's unfair to non-believers has lousy meter. It just doesn't scan.
So you're a poetry critic as well as a gatekeeper?
Oh, fine. Protest however you want. I was just trying to be helpful.
I'm sorry. It's just that protesting requires a sort of righteous indignation, and it's hard to just turn that off.
Well, it doesn't feel very nice to have all that righteous indignation turned on me. Talk about abuse. Now I know what abuse feels like.
Doesn't feel very good, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Maybe I could just have a sit-in. I could just sit here as a form of protest.
Oh, that would be good. Or maybe you could light yourself on fire. I know some monks who did that on Earth. They just sat still and lit themselves on fire to protest something. Seems like that could be very effective.
Sounds painful.
Aren't you willing to sacrifice for the cause?
Oh, don't talk to me about sacrifice. I'm the one who's stuck in hell for eternity. I think I know about sacrifice.
You want to talk about sacrifice? Do you have any idea how long I've been a gatekeeper, second class? Do you have any idea how long I've spent at this little backwater entrance to heaven? Do you see pearly gates here? No. Do you see the newly dead lining up to enter here? No. There's you and me, and not so long ago Larson went through. And that's it.
I had no idea.
I can't even look forward to someone dying so I'll get promoted to take their place. Nobody dies here. We're already dead. Talk about a job for life. Or at least that ends. This is a job for death.
So why don't you quit?
And do what? At least I have a job. I can't imagine spending all my time just singing hymns and playing the harp. No. There may not be much advancement, but it's good, honest work. And I've got time. I've got eternity.
Doesn't sound like heaven to me.
What do you know about heaven? You just died and you didn't believe in it when you were alive. And now you're protesting how unfair it is? And you're not even willing to set yourself on fire?
I'm just not into pain.
Oh, it hurts. A little burning flesh, a little pain. Have you looked around hell? Have you seen your peers?
No, I haven't.
So maybe before you start protesting about how unfair it all is, you should take a look around and see what you're talking about.
Well, that's what I want to do. I want to take a look around heaven first.
Go to hell.
I beg your pardon?
Go to hell first. Figure out what it's like. Maybe it's not so bad.
I don't want to go to hell. I want to go to heaven.
Not on my watch.
I'm protesting.
How was your visit? Sell a lot of goats?
I did some business.
God's unfair to non-believers. God's unfair to non-believers.
A pretty weak protest.
Robin, what are you doing?
Protesting. God's unfair to non-believers.
Have you thought about what you're saying?
If I piss off God, let him come down here and say something to me.
You really are too much. How can God be unfair to non-believers? If you don't believe in God, then aren't you being unfair to him and blaming him for your own unfairness?
Ooh, that's good.
Why don't you just trust me on this and stop it before you embarrass us all?
I need your support here. We denizens of hell have to stick together.
Sticking together implies that there is an us to be together. As far as I can tell, you're acting from a position of you. So I think that what you meant to say was, why aren't you following me? After all, you've been dead for many minutes now, and I'm sure you know much better than anyone else exactly what needs to be done on behalf of all the denizens of hell, none of whom you've met, I believe, other than me. And it should be pretty clear even to you that I don't agree with your position on this.
Zing!
I take your point.
So perhaps you should just follow me. After all, we denizens of hell should stick together.
Okay.
See you later, Dale.
So what do the denizens of hell need to do?
I prefer citizens of hell, or even hellions.
Do you think this whole setup is fair?
Of course not. But like I said to you before, I don't think anyone has ever suggested that was the criteria for how things get judged.
I thought your point was that God hadn't promised to be fair. Justice, an eye for an eye, the golden rule, divine right, yes, but fair, no.
Yes.
I don't see that God should get to decide on the criteria. I choose to judge this system, this afterlife, on whether it is fair or not. And I say it is not. How do you see it?
It's not fair.
Okay then, so what do we do about it?
I don't think there's anything we can do about it.
Well, you can go to heaven anytime you want.
On business. But I have to come back.
What's heaven like?
I don't know.
What do you mean?
I mean, I don't know. Because I'm from hell. I don't get to see what it's really like. I get to go there and do business, but I don't get to live there. I don't really experience heaven. It's sort of like being on the outside and looking in, but the lens is covered in Vaseline.
When you're there and talking with people.
Yeah. They're all happy, hanging out in heaven, and I'm sort of in this limbo, this strange fog.
Oh, that sucks. That's really unfair.
They say it's because it would only be worse for us if we could experience heaven and then had to leave.
But to not know, to be there and see others experience it and not be able to get it, I mean, that's just mean.
Others say it's just because I don't believe. I'm here in hell because I don't believe, and I can't experience heaven because I don't believe.
Oh, this is worse than I thought.
So you can see why protesting won't do any good and why taking you to heaven wouldn't help you at all.
But we have to do something.
The best thing you can do is just accept things how they are and learn to be happy with that. Find yourself a job. Settle down. Get a routine. You have to get by to get by.
You fundamentally agree with me on the issues here.
Sure. Everyone would. Well, maybe not everyone. There's Satan and his cronies. They prefer hell to heaven. They just as soon have no contact between heaven and hell at all. Most of us are pretty damn tired of being second-class citizens in the afterlife.
So work with me. Join the cause.
The cause?
The movement. Fight the good fight.
You want to wage war against heaven?
I want to fight for a fair deal. I want to take on the abusive and repressive system. I want to go to heaven and experience it.
You want to fight a war against God?
I think of it more as a social movement, fighting for a cause rather than fighting a war.
You're nuts! Insane! Stark raving bonkers.
Are you with me?
I'd have to be nuts.
What have you got to lose? Nothing except your chains.
I don't have chains.
Your metaphorical chains. The chains that keep you in hell. The chains that prevent you from experiencing heaven. The chains that constitute the repressive social system that is this afterlife.
Just the two of us against God and heaven?
It's a start, and there will be others. The word will spread.
You know it's blasphemy.
I respect God. He's just got it wrong in this case. And you know, I don't know God. No one will let me talk to him, so it's no surprise that I don't know him. But judging from what I read, I have a lot of respect for God. In fact, I have so much respect that I think God would want to know that the system is unfair and that bothers us. I think he would want to know that we're tired of being second-class citizens.
Oh, come on. Surely God knows that already.
Have you ever told him? Has anyone ever taken the case to God?
But God knows everything.
Well, maybe God doesn't know this. God doesn't know what it's like to be a second-class citizen, to be discriminated against. God has no experience of this. I think God will want to know.
So you're going to tell him?
Yeah, I'm going to tell him.
It won't be easy.
Fighting the good fight is never easy.
You'll need help.
Others will join our cause.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm in.
Okay.
This feels like the most dangerous thing I've ever done.
Well, it probably is.
So what do we do now?
We get others to join our cause. Let the movement grow. We speak to the denizens of hell. My fellow citizens of hell, fellow hellions, I come before you today to ask for your help in going to heaven. You see, I have a dream. I have a dream that someday we will no longer be second-class citizens in this afterlife. I have a dream of a revolution that takes us to heaven where we can sit as equals. But I do not dream of violence. I do not dream of a war against God. In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the whirlwinds of revolt will shake our foundations until the bright day of justice emerges. But there is something I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plains of dignity and discipline. We must forever conduct our struggle. We must forever create a creative protest, not allowed to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. Because I have to ask you, do we deserve an eternity in hell? Do we deserve to be forever denied the experience of heaven just because we didn't believe when we were alive? I don't think that's fair. And if you think it's not fair, then join me. Join our cause. Become part of our movement. And together, we will find heaven.
I'm impressed. You're getting more of a response than I would have guessed.
But it's not enough. We can talk until we're blue in the face. And as long as it's just us talking, nothing's going to happen. We need some action.
Like what?
We need to talk with God.
How are you going to do that?
You're going to arrange it.
Me? I don't talk with God.
Well, who do you talk with? Who's the highest up in the power structure that you talk with?
I guess that would be Morgan.
Well, who's Morgan?
Morgan is, well, you know, I don't know exactly what Morgan's job is, but Morgan seems to be able to get things done.
Then I'll talk to Morgan.
I don't know.
Just arrange the meeting. I'll take it from there.
Welcome to heaven.
Thank you. I'd like to say that it's great to be here, but I don't really know that since I'm not really experiencing heaven.
Too bad. It's glorious, you know. From the window here, I can see mountains covered with wildflowers. I can eat cheese, all the cheese I want, without my stomach ever complaining. And there are always new, interesting cheeses to try, each one better than the one before.
Oh, that sounds lovely. I wish I could experience it.
Of course. But you're from hell, and even when you are here, you're still in hell, at least in the ways that count.
And that's what I want to talk to you about. I don't think that's fair.
Not fair? How so? What's not fair about it?
It just doesn't seem to me that I and all the others in hell should be denied heaven just because we weren't true believers when we were alive.
Didn't you learn in church, or whatever your religious training was, that faith is important, and that if you don't believe, you will go to hell?
Well, I didn't go to church or any other religious training when I was young.
I have a hard time believing that you weren't exposed to that idea in some form.
Well, I'm sure I was exposed to it. Lots of religions claim to have the truth, that their believers would go to heaven and everyone else would go to hell. How was I supposed to pick the right one?
You didn't have to pick the right one. You only had to pick one. Any faith at all, and that seems more than fair to me.
Well, I think it was an ambiguous situation, and it was very easy to understand things the way I did. So it doesn't seem fair to me that I should spend an eternity in hell because God wasn't very clear.
And what would be fair? Half an eternity? 100 lifetimes?
I don't see why there needs to be a hell at all. That's the really unfair thing. Why do we need to have people who can't be in heaven?
Oh, so it's the very existence of hell that you find unfair.
Yes, it seems to me not only be unfair, but to be unjust.
Justice is one of God's favorite things.
So if I can convince you that God is being unjust, you will help me?
How would I help you?
Get me an audience with God. I need to talk to God directly. I'm sure that if I could sit down and have a conversation with God, I could convince him to get rid of hell, or at least change the rules substantially.
Interesting idea.
So you'll help me.
I'm not convinced yet that hell needs to be eliminated.
Okay? Let me start with the premise that the citizens of hell are second-class citizens. Would you agree with that?
Oh yes, hellions are definitely second-class citizens in the afterlife.
And why are they second-class citizens? Because they weren't smart enough or perceptive enough or lucky enough to be true believers while they were alive?
So what would be a just criteria for determining who goes to hell?
How about whether you were good?
Oh, the Santa Claus thing. Who's been naughty and who's been nice?
That sounds fairer than whether you believed or not.
It may sound fair, but when it comes down to implementing it, it's really very difficult. How do you figure out whether someone has been basically good or basically evil? How do you measure up a lifetime of small cruelties, from pulling the wings off a fly to making the little girl next door cry? Remember that? And does it matter if the cruelty was intentional or how old you were when you did it? How do you measure that against a lifetime of small acts of goodness? Helping your sister with her homework, saying something nice to someone when you were feeling down. And would that really be a small goodness, or are you just enabling some dysfunctional dynamic? And before that, how do you decide what constitutes being good or not? I used being cruel and being nice, but there are countless other ways that we could define it. Oh, I see where the idea is appealing, but actually implementing it, it's just not doable.
I see.
So perhaps you should go back to hell and have some faith that perhaps God was not being a complete idiot when he sent you this way.
I don't see why there has to be a hell at all.
Just have everyone go to heaven when they die?
Yeah.
Now that wouldn't be very fair to the true believers, would it?
I don't follow you.
It really isn't heaven without hell. It would just be death.
Well, why can't that be heaven?
We don't live in a vacuum. Without hell to compare with, how can you claim that this is heaven? It's not much of a prize if everybody wins.
Well, heaven isn't a prize.
You seem to want it pretty badly.
I do want it, but even more than wanting to get into heaven, I want to not be in hell. I want to not be a second-class citizen.
So it's the hierarchy thing that bothers you.
Yes, it's the power hierarchy.
The same sort of social structure that characterizes primates everywhere. A dominance hierarchy. That's what bothers you. And yet somehow you think the afterlife shouldn't have a hierarchy.
Well, maybe just a little flatter hierarchy. Say God on one level and then everybody else.
Oh, that's funny. But you were serious.
Yes, let's get rid of hierarchy. That would be heaven.
Oh no, that wouldn't be heaven at all. There wouldn't be anyone you're better than. There wouldn't be any sense of social place. There wouldn't be any privilege. Even if it were possible, which I can't imagine is the case, I don't see how anyone would really want that.
Everyone in hell wants it.
Oh, they may say they want to be equals, but that's not true. What they really want is to be superior. They want to be in charge, out with the old order and in with the new, which works very well for the new, since they can just step into the power vacuum and assume the privileges of the old order.
I don't want to do that.
Perhaps, but you really have no idea of what it is you would like. Have some imagination. Imagine not being able to stereotype others. Imagine having to actually get to know everyone you interact with so that you could treat them like the individual person they are. What an incredible amount of time and effort that would take. I don't think most of us would be able to do it. It's the existing social structure that allows us to size up people in an instant and treat them as examples of a class. It's a wonderful time-saving device. You learn how to treat a certain class of people, and then you treat everyone in that class the same way without having to spend all that time and effort relating to them as an individual.
I relate to people as individuals.
Oh, nonsense. You didn't relate to me as an individual. You came in here with your righteous indignation and talked to me like I represented the whole oppressive system. You didn't bother to find out anything about me at all. That's how humans function. We create classifications of people and dominance hierarchies and social structures. So even if God led everyone in hell into heaven, we'd just recreate the social structures of the afterlife here in heaven. There would be second-class citizens in heaven instead of hell, but they'd still be second-class citizens.
I don't think so. I think people are better than that. I think we can relate to each other as individuals. I think God created us with the ability and compassion to see each other as individual people in all our individual glory.
Oh, sure. We can do that. We do that when we fall in love. But do you fall in love with everyone? No. And it would be horrible if you did. Frankly, most people irritate me. They have these annoying little mannerisms that just drive me crazy. And if you spend too much time relating to them in the full glory of their personhood, you'd want to kill them, which was fine when you were alive, but here it's a problem because they're already dead. You can't kill them.
That's sick.
And how long does love last? You can try and not categorize your loved ones, but eventually you know them so well that you can't help it. You get lazy and react to your image of them rather than to them, and that's it. You've lost that see the other for who they are thing. It's just how we are.
We don't have to be that way.
Oh, please. Don't tell me about the possibilities of human nature. I'm really not interested in your utopian visions. I'm in heaven. What could be better than that?
Don't you feel even a little guilty that while you're in heaven, others are in hell?
Those are the breaks.
So you have no problem that your heaven requires others to be in hell?
Frankly, no. I don't see any other possibility. If we let everyone in hell into heaven, they would just create a new hell. They are two sides of the same coin. We define ourselves in terms of our opposites, not in any absolute sense. How would you know you had a good day if you never had a bad day?
I believe in absolutes.
You're in hell because you don't believe.
I think I'm wasting my time here.
Oh, surely not. We've had a fun discussion, and maybe you've learned a thing or two. And besides, you've got all eternity. If we don't waste it once in a while, surely it will drag a bit.
Goodbye.
How did it go with Morgan?
Terrible.
Really? I've always found Morgan to be pleasant and very smart.
But not so flexible. Morgan is definitely not joining the movement.
Too bad.
Morgan will be first up against the wall when the revolution comes.
Excuse me?
I want to get that snotty little arrogant.
What do you mean, get?
Get, take care of, finish off.
I'm still not following.
We have to do something. And that something is going to make Morgan's heaven a rather unpleasant place to be.
What do you have in mind?
I don't know, but it's going to be big and it's going to be shocking and it's going to show them that they just can't take hell for granted anymore.
That sounds scary.
Yeah, it's going to be scary.
That doesn't sound nonviolent.
I don't know that it is.
What happened to let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred? We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force.
I'm too mad for all that.
You have to get past your anger.
Damn it, I'm a hellion. And I say, let the full wrath of hell come forth.
Robin.
I say, God created hell, now let him feel what he has wrought. Let the fires roar. Let our righteous fury be contained no longer. Let loose the dogs of war.
We don't have any dogs. And about that war thing, I thought you said that you didn't want to go to war against God.
I don't want to go to war against God. This is a war against heaven. This is a war against the oppressive two-class system that bitterly divides the afterlife into a heaven and a hell.
So how is that not a war against God? How is that not blasphemy?
I respect God. I respect God enough to think that God doesn't want to oppress us. God created us and wants us to be happy.
But God created heaven and hell.
Well, that's not the point. The point is that I believe that God would want to engage in dialogue and that God would respect us for challenging the system.
Where'd you get that from? Did Morgan say that?
No.
Have you talked to God?
No, I haven't.
So you're just talking out your butt right now.
I am talking from my righteous indignation.
Same thing. So what are you planning on doing?
I don't know. But it has to really get them good. It has to strike at their smug complacency. It has to disrupt heaven. What do they fear in heaven?
I don't know that they fear anything.
Everybody fears something. They don't fear dying because they're already dead. Do explosives work in heaven?
What would you blow up? You can't even see the real heaven, so how could you blow something up? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Blowing things up is about making people afraid. It's about disrupting their safe little world. It's about declaring that everyone who is part of the oppressive system is responsible for the injustices that are created by the system. No one is innocent.
You're saying that Dale, poor little gatekeeper second-class Dale, is guilty?
Yes. Dale isn't intentionally repressing us, and Dale is probably even pretty oppressed by the system. But yes, Dale is part of that system and isn't working to change it. So yes, Dale is not innocent.
That's a harsh view.
That's how I see it. You're with us or you're against us. There are no sidelines to sit on in this. So how do we strike the system? How do we blow things up in a metaphorical sense, if not a physical sense? How do we set off a bomb for freedom?
I don't want to set off a bomb for freedom.
Are you against me on this?
No, not at all.
So what would upset their world? What would put fear into heaven?
I could not deliver the goats for Goat Day. That would be a nice, non-violent way to protest our plight. A lot of folks in heaven really like my goats, and they go all out on Goat Day. So if I didn't deliver it, it would cause some problems. And if we got the other goat traders to not deliver their goats as well, that would really be something.
A goat boycott. It's not a bad idea, but I want something flashier, something bigger, something that'll put the fear of hell into them. Maybe we could expand it, boycott more than goats. Yeah, cut off all traffic between heaven and hell. We could block the gates and take away hell.
But we'd still be here.
And they would know that, so it wouldn't work. It wouldn't force them to create a new hell in heaven.
They would have to give up goat and other things that come from hell, but I think they'd get over that.
It's not the answer. It's not a bad idea, but it's not the answer. No, we need something that will fundamentally change their world. Something that will introduce some uncertainty, something that might bring them to the bargaining table. Maybe we're approaching this the wrong way. Heaven is all about belief. You're there because you're a true believer. We have to do something to disrupt their beliefs. The thing about a terrorist suicide bomber is not that he kills people and destroys property, but that he destroys our belief that our world is controlled and orderly, our belief that the world is a reasonable place, our belief in justice and fairness. So what do people in heaven believe in, and how can we disrupt those beliefs?
They believe in heaven. They believe they deserve to be in heaven and that we don't. They believe they know the truth about how things are.
Deeper than that. What are the beliefs that are so deep they don't even know they have them? The very beliefs that their world is based on.
They believe they're in heaven, that there is no ugliness, no horror, no evil that can reach them.
Oh, that's good. Say more about that.
They're surrounded by beauty, and they believe that all that is evil and ugly is in hell.
So if we could introduce ugliness and evil into heaven, perform random acts of meanness and senseless ugliness, Pirandello meets the Grand Guignol. We must transform the sublime into the grotesque.
How will you do that?
Oh, just leave that to me.
Hi, Robin.
You vile little person. Just looking at you makes the puke rise up in my mouth.
What?
You heard what I said. The simplest contact with you makes me physically ill.
That's not very nice.
The truth hurts.
What have I ever done to you?
Your whole existence is an assault on my sense of everything that is right and decent. I look at you and I feel wave after wave of nausea rise up in my belly. I can't look at you anymore.
Hey, I'm beginning to get a little irritated by this.
You want to know what I really think of you? This is what I think of you.
Hey, don't do that.
Why not? Don't you like the looks of my ass?
It's not that you have a fine ass. It's just not polite.
So you like my ass. I loathe you, and yet you're attracted to my ass. What sort of weird physical lust is that?
It's not lust.
No? Then what is it? It can't just be lust because you don't have lust in heaven? Is that it? Lust is ugly? It isn't noble?
I do not lust after your ass.
You seem mighty interested in my ass.
I'm not like that. That's disgusting.
Oh, so now my ass is disgusting. What kind of ass do you lust after?
I don't lust after anyone's ass. Period.
I think I need to take this up with your superior.
You just stay here. I'll be back.
Random acts of meanness and senseless ugliness. So now what? Did you take a break to think about my ass in private? Maybe a little self-gratification while you fantasized about my ass?
No.
I think so. I think you went off to help yourself, if you know what I mean.
You are really sick.
I got here as fast as I could.
Robin mooned me.
Mooned you?
This is ridiculous. Morgan, I think you're trying to prevent me from entering heaven on legitimate goat trading business because of my political views.
Really?
First, Robin insulted me. Then, the naked buttocks.
I will not stand for this sort of treatment.
Robin is lying.
I believe you, Dale.
Oh, isn't that just like you people in heaven? You always stick together.
Why don't you let me take care of this, Dale?
Okay.
So you mooned Dale. Why?
I did nothing of the sort.
Why would Dale lie to me? So why did you moon Dale? What good did you think this would do for your cause? It is about your cause, isn't it?
Well, what if it is?
So you did moon Dale.
Yes, I mooned Dale.
Why? How is that going to get you into heaven?
Let me rephrase. I showed Dale my ass, but it was only because Dale was lusting after my ass.
I don't see how attacking Dale furthers your cause.
You're just like Dale. You covet my ass. You lust after my ass.
I'm not following this.
You pretend that everything is wonderful in heaven. You pretend that everything is beautiful, but deep down you lust for my ass. Your heaven is a fraud.
So that's it.
Your heaven is not what you believe it to be. It's a harsh system that oppresses others. It's a cover for lust and dark, unfilled desires. And in your heart of hearts, you know that's true. You lusted when you're alive, and you still lust now that you're dead.
Interesting, interesting.
I'll prove it. Do you feel disgust? Or perhaps lust? Maybe a little forbidden excitement?
Perhaps I simply feel detached artistic appreciation for one of God's creations. It's not God's best ass, but it's not bad.
You see, you do lust after my ass.
I don't see it that way.
I can see it. I can see the cracks in your whole belief system starting to form. What does your heaven look like now? Instead of glorious mountains, do you see naked buttocks?
No, I don't think so. So this is your plan. You'll go around mooning people in heaven. And I suppose that you will get your fellow denizens of hell to also moon people in heaven. And somehow that will change God's mind and you will be allowed to enter the kingdom of heaven. That's your plan. Your way of protesting, your direct action against heaven?
Yes, it is. And you fear it. And the people of heaven will fear it. They will come to fear that as they go through their day, ignoring the dark and seamy side of their so-called heaven, when they least expect it, a naked ass will appear and remind them of their own lust, their own dark side. All of heaven will live in terror of the very possibility of my naked ass.
Wow.
Wow, indeed. Welcome to a new age. The war has started, and we will not be defeated.
I'm impressed.
You should be afraid.
You really believe in this. You really believe that this will get you into heaven.
I do.
You're a true believer.
I am.
So that means you belong in heaven.
What? What did you say?
I said you have become a true believer, so you belong in heaven. You are welcome here.
But it doesn't work that way. Larson told me that becoming a true believer doesn't get you into heaven. Once you're dead, the decision is made, and that doesn't change.
Of course they told you that. That's the official policy.
So I can't be welcomed into heaven.
No, you can. What the policy means is that you can't just decide to become a true believer and then you're in. You really have to become a true believer.
I thought I had to be a true believer in some form of religion.
What's the difference between your cause and a religion? Not much that I can see. You believe you're right, you believe you have the truth, and you believe that you're going to heaven when it's all over. Sounds like a religion to me.
It's not a religion.
And you blaspheme against the established order. Your mooning, your buttocks of terror, is clearly a sign of disrespect to God, and that is what blasphemy is, my friend. And the surest sign of a new religion is that it is blasphemy to the established religions.
I don't buy it.
You're in heaven now. Look around. What do you see?
Oh, I don't see anything. No, I do see things. And I hear things. I hear birds singing. I love the sounds of birds singing.
You're experiencing heaven.
I had no idea the buildings were so beautiful. What incredible architecture.
Welcome to heaven. You've made it. Your cause has succeeded.
My cause hasn't succeeded. I may have made it into heaven, but the countless denizens of hell are still in hell. They are still oppressed by the social structure that you call heaven.
Oh, please. Your cause was always about getting into heaven. That's what you wanted when you came to see me. That's what you've always wanted all along. And now you've done that.
Well, I may have started with that, but the cause became bigger than that. I will not stop until everyone in hell can experience heaven.
Perhaps you should spend some time in heaven. Enjoy the experience. Revel in the beauty. And then when you've rested a bit and have a feel for heaven, then you can revisit your cause.
You think I'll give it up. You think I'll turn my back on hell.
Not at all. But if you did, who could blame you? The denizens of hell have been in hell for countless eons. And what have they done for your cause? Not much. They get together and complain now and then, but frankly, I think that they would miss it if they didn't have something to complain about. No, they are really happier with the way things are.
I don't believe that at all.
You weren't in hell very long. You don't know these people. They are different from you and me. There's a reason God sent them to hell. And it's not as simple as they didn't believe. You see, there's a reason they don't believe. There's something wrong with them. Well, not wrong, but there's something different about them.
God sent me to hell.
But not for long. Come with me, experience heaven for a while. Let me give you a tour. It's really a remarkable place. It is everything you imagined it could be. And here, have a cigar while we walk.
It's got a nice smell.
I'll let you in on a little secret. It's from hell. The best cigars are, you know.
Really?
Oh yes, the best cigars, the best goats. Some things just do better in hell.
That's funny.
Well, what would heaven be without humor? Not very heavenly, I think.
This is awfully nice.
Yeah, it is.
I think I might just be able to get used to this.
Well, you've got all eternity to do just that.
Larson, old pal of mine, what brings you to heaven? Selling goats?
Yes, selling goats.
So how is the goat business these days?
Same old, same old.
It seems like ages since I've seen you. You know, I've been meaning to look you up, but I've been so busy, what with learning the ropes, being in a new place. Heaven is so different from hell, and yet not so different. You know what I mean?
No, I don't.
No, of course not. How stupid of me. See, that's what I mean. Still learning my way around.
This is unbelievable.
I know. I mean, I thought heaven would be nice. I guess that's not completely true. When I was alive, I never thought about heaven.
I know.
But once I was dead and I started thinking about it, well, anyway, heaven is so much nicer than I imagined. It really is heaven.
Completely unbelievable.
Well, for you, of course it is. You're an unbeliever, so of course it's unbelievable.
You're what's unbelievable.
Me? What do you mean?
You were leading the movement. You were fighting the power. We were going to get our place at the table. Well, you got your place at the table. You got your seat in heaven.
And you think I've forgotten you.
You're gone. You're one of them. You're one of the angels in heaven. We're all still burning in hell.
You've got to have some faith, Larson. Yes, I'm in heaven, but I haven't forgotten the hellions. It's just that things have changed for me, and I have to figure out what that means.
You're sitting up here, eating our goat, smoking our cigars, and we haven't heard one word from you.
I'm trying to figure out where we go from here. You have to realize what this means for the revolution. We've got a voice on the inside now. We've got eyes and ears on the inside. That makes it a whole new game. It's going to take some time to figure out how best to proceed.
You've sold out. You've become one of them.
No, never. It may look that way because I'm trying to fit in so I can figure out how best to proceed. But don't worry that I'm still not 100% committed to the revolution. After all, it's what I believe in. If I stop believing, they might kick me out of heaven.
We wouldn't want that.
No, we've come this far. We can't go back.
You mean you can't go back?
No, I mean we. The revolution will continue. We'll be an insider-outsider combination. Me inside heaven, you outside. Together we'll bring the whole thing down.
Do you really believe that?
With all my heart.
So you haven't changed?
No, not at all.
You look different.
Well, being in heaven does have some effect on you.
Yeah, well, I've got some goats to deliver.
I don't want to hold you up.
Hello there. So, how are you finding heaven?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Heavenly, you might say.
I just might. So you're on your day off?
Day off? I don't follow you.
From your job, from gatekeeper duty.
Oh, that's not my job. That's something I do for fun. Sort of a role play, improv kind of a thing. It adds a little spice, a bit of amusement from time to time.
Really? So when you were not letting me into heaven...
That was a good one. I got word that a newbie hellion was headed our way. And thank you for a wonderful time. I didn't get to say it at the time, but that whole thing with exposing your buttocks, that was pure genius. I haven't had an improv like that in a good long time. Oh, that was rich.
So I could have just come into heaven at any time? It was all a game?
Of course it was. And you know, you almost had me trapped into letting you into heaven a couple of times. You were very good. A worthy adversary indeed. Again, let me say thank you.
You're welcome.
Shake on it. No hard feelings. Eternity's a long time to harbor a grudge.
Sure, no hard feelings.
Are you interested in more improvs? You play a good game.
You do that a lot?
Are you playing at questions?
What do you mean, plain at questions?
Have you launched into the improv game where we can speak only in questions?
I didn't know there was such a game.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were cleverly indicating that you liked improv games by starting to play one with me and assuming that I would catch on and play with you.
Which you did.
Yes, it's hard to slip one by me.
But obviously not so hard to slip one by me.
You're new. You'll get better. And you do have a real flair for playing.
Can I ask you a question? How much of this is a game? Is this a game now?
Ah, now that's a good question.
And do you have a good answer?
I like the dogged determination, that stick-to-itness. You're a real tire biter.
Tire biter?
Like a little dog that chases cars and tries to bite the tire. The dog doesn't really know what it will do if it ever catches the car, but it desperately wants to bite the tires.
And you're saying that's me?
You've got to admire the spunk in the dog, and it's always great fun to watch the chase. Well, that's a compliment.
Okay, well, thank you then.
I have to run. Let me know if you want to play. I think you've got a real flair for it.
Hi, Robin. How's heaven treating you?
Oh, never a dull moment.
Of course not. It's heaven.
If you say so.
You having doubts?
Maybe.
Remember that heaven is for true believers. You're here because you're a true believer. You believe in your cause.
I do. I still believe in equality and justice and that there shouldn't be a class system.
So what do you doubt?
I don't know.
Don't be such a sad sack. This is heaven. Cheer up, old boy. What could be better? Unless being down is your idea of heaven. We do have folks like that here. They're only happy when they're unhappy, if you know what I mean. I could introduce you to them if you'd like.
I don't think so.
Is your idea of heaven fighting the good fight? Maybe it's the struggle that's important, and when you actually win, you don't know what to do. You know, that's that Sisyphus' thing. You know, he's constantly struggling against unfair odds. That's his idea of heaven.
I thought Sisyphus was in hell.
Did you see him here?
But the myth, the story, and Sisyphus is being punished.
Do you think living people could understand and appreciate the idea that pushing a rock uphill forever is someone's idea of heaven? Maybe some, but not the masses.
So you think I'm like Sisyphus?
Maybe. Only you can really know what your idea of heaven is, and then you can enact it.
That sounds like some New Age garbage.
So what are you doubting?
Dale told me that the whole gatekeeper thing was just an improv game. And if that is the case, then there isn't really a gatekeeper to heaven. In which case, I could have just walked in anytime I wanted.
So you're doubting the obstacles you've overcome. That's not unusual. Often it's a self-esteem issue. You think to yourself, it couldn't have been much of an obstacle if I overcame it, since deep down you really believe that you aren't very capable of overcoming difficult obstacles.
That's not it. My whole life, and now I would say my whole death, has been about fighting against and overcoming the most difficult obstacles imaginable.
Like trying to see without having eyes? Like understanding what others say when you can't hear?
Like fighting intolerance and prejudice and fighting the power.
Fight the power.
Damn straight.
You've been fighting the power your whole life and death. And now you are the power. I can see where you would find that hard to deal with.
I am not the power.
You're in heaven. You're one of the angels, one of the heavenly host. You're a host. You're on God's team. Who is the power if not you?
If I had the power, there would be no heaven and hell. And clearly there is. Thus, I am not the powerful one.
How do you know that?
You got me into heaven. Larson told me I was in hell.
And Dale told you that you couldn't come into heaven.
Look, I've been in hell and I've been in heaven. They exist.
Do they?
Are you saying they don't?
I'm just asking an interesting question. One that it seemed like it was time to ask. I rather like asking interesting questions. I guess that's part of my idea of being in heaven.
This is all about to make my head explode.
Oh, that wouldn't be good. Can you imagine going around the rest of eternity without a head? That hardly sounds like heaven to me.
Would you just tell me?
And where would that get you?
What do you mean?
Suppose I told you that there was no heaven and hell. Would you believe me?
You told me how important it was for hell to exist in order that there be a heaven. You said that heaven couldn't exist without hell.
So if I tell you that they don't exist?
Then either you were lying then or you're lying now. Either way, you're a liar.
And do people lie to you? And do people lie to you in your idea of heaven?
No, they don't.
So you see my point.
I shouldn't listen to you.
You shouldn't listen blindly to me, or to anyone for that matter.
What's your idea of heaven? Good cigars and goat?
Ah, some inquiry. That's a good step. Yes, cigars and goat, of course, but more than that, it's interesting conversations, good talk, exchange of ideas, witty banter, following the logic well past any reasonable conclusion, engaging in a lively life of the mind.
And listening to yourself talk?
Oh, yes, of course, listening to myself talk. I am one of the most interesting people I've ever met. But then again, aren't we all? What fascinates us more than ourselves? What is more interesting than the strange bundle of living or even dead contradictions that we each are?
I've always found others more interesting.
But you, dear Robin, are so interesting. You fight the power, you hate the power, but you want the power, and when you get the power, you don't know what to do with it. Don't you wonder why that is?
I'm all about fighting the power for others, not for myself.
You are a true believer.
Well, this is getting me nowhere.
Where do you have to go? Why are you in such a hurry?
I don't know where to go. I'm not even sure where I am.
Would that be geographic or existential doubt that you're having?
Well, I have to go.
How nice of you to visit us in hell.
Is that where we are?
Isn't that what you think?
I'm not so sure.
You have doubts.
I have many doubts.
Good.
Why is that good?
Hell is for doubters. You might even say that doubting is hell.
And true belief is heaven.
Do you believe that?
Oh, it's nice to believe, but I'm not sure it's heaven.
What about the cause?
What about the cause? Is there a cause? Do you really want to leave hell and go to heaven? Is there even a hell to leave and a heaven to go to?
You've come a long way in your journey. You're asking questions. You really do have doubt.
Could you just answer the questions? I mean, they're not rhetorical. Is there really a heaven and a hell?
What do you think?
I don't know. You really want to leave where you are and go to heaven? Can you really not see Morgan's heaven?
Like I said, if I try really hard, I can see something of what they see, but I don't really believe it. I have too much doubt.
Do you want to go to heaven? Do you want to be a believer?
It does sound nice. The idea of being certain about everything, knowing the answers to all the big questions, knowing how other people think, knowing you are right. It does sound appealing.
But
It's not really me. I doubt. Now maybe you do too.
could I really have gone to heaven when I first got here? Dale told me that the whole gatekeeper thing was just a game.
I have to admit, I set you up on that one. I told Dale you were coming.
So it was a game.
A game that you believed in. A game you wanted to play, I think. But perhaps I'm wrong. Did you want to play it?
Yeah, I did want to play it.
Sorry. I know this can be a little rough.
I do belong in hell.
Maybe there isn't a hell. Maybe there's no heaven.
I have doubts.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, you feel kind of like you're drifting, maybe.
No anchors.
On the plus side, think of the possibilities. Think of all the new things that you might learn about now that you're less certain about the nature of everything. Think about all the wild and interesting things that might happen.
You mean there's more? You mean there's aftershocks to this earthquake of my worldview?
Oh yeah, but they can be fun. You'll learn all sorts of new things. You'll never be bored again. You'll never grow weary of experiencing the moment-by-moment surprise of routine existence.
I'm not sure I follow you.
You know how little things that happened used to upset you? Like when Dale wouldn't let you into heaven.
Yeah?
Well, that was in part because you believed you knew how things worked. You knew that you had a right to go to heaven, and reality was violating your sense of how it was supposed to work. So if you let go of that sense of knowing how things work and instead have some doubt, that doubt can lead to curiosity. And instead of being angry, you can be surprised by what reality brings your way.
Maybe.
It's a lot more fun to be surprised than to be angry.
Morgan, I'm surprised to see you here in hell.
That's good. Now, try some inquiry.
What brings you here today?
I just felt like dropping by and doing this.
Oh, nice.
I didn't know you had it in you, Morgan.
It's been a long time.
Sneak attack!
Oh, that is just not right. So what brings you to hell, Dale?
Just guess there might be some fun to be had, that's all.
There's always fun to be had here.
And maybe a cigar?
No problem.
I never say no to one of hell's finest.
Robin, would you like a cigar?
I suppose so. So this is all still a little bit strange to me.
How so?
I'm standing here in hell, smoking cigars, with a goat trader from hell, a gatekeeper from heaven, and a high muckety-muck from heaven. Or at least that's how I would have described it not so long ago.
Before you got into heaven.
Before Dale and Larson and you rocked my worldview.
Before you had doubt.
How would you describe it now?
I don't know. I don't know if this is really hell, if there's really a heaven, whether Dale is playing a game or not, whether you, Morgan, are really a high muckety-muck or just some trickster. I don't even know if this is really a cigar.
Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Well, whatever it is, tastes pretty damn good. And the rest of the questions?
There will always be questions.
Yes, there will always be questions.
And a chance to discuss them.
And doubt.
So maybe this is heaven.
To heaven.
And hell.
And hell.
Like I said, if I try really hard, I can see something of what they see, but I don't really believe it. I have too much doubt.
In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plains of dignity and discipline.
Sunsets over the ocean, the majesty of the mountains. You little fuzzy bunnies. Puns, did none of this give you even a hint?
Wonderful.
It may sound fair, but when it comes down to implementing it, it's really very difficult. How do you figure out whether someone has been basically good or basically evil? How do you measure up a lifetime of small cruelties, from pulling the wings off a fly to making the little girl next door cry? Remember that? And does it matter if the cruelty was intentional or how old you were when you did it?